Hello and welcome back to another edition of the Daily Crypto Byte. Today is Thursday, November 4th, and I want to start by saying thank you to everyone who attended our webinar with AJ Monty yesterday. Awesome questions in the chat. Really appreciate it. And we had a lot of fun going through our end of year outlook, going through some take profit strategies and whatnot. It was a lot of fun, but very excited to be back here this morning on the Daily Crypto Byte because we have lots of assets, either making new all-time highs or getting very close to making all-time highs. So should be an exciting close to the week here, and we should have plenty to talk about today. But before we dive into things, CJ, how you doing today, my friend?
Doing good, Monty. I hope you're well. Also, with all this altcoin price action, it's been a lot of fun to participate in the market and be in the chat the last few days. But what a Fed outcome, even with the plans to taper, we still rallied to new all-time highs. Continue to rally now, IWM above 240, stock market ripping in general. So I thought Powell did a really great job yesterday, and we're seeing the results of that today. So interesting stuff. I'm really excited to get into the Bitcoin chart, although it's not doing anything. I do think we have some other schematics we can look at and some cool things that we can compare it to get an idea of where the trend may be headed in the near-term future. But with that being said, Monty, how you doing this morning, my friend?
Yeah, doing good, CJ. I think Chris's comment here in the chat sums it up. Altcoins, baby. It is. It feels like alt season. And, CJ, like you said, we have traditional equities going risk on, which I think is very good for that altcoin season sort of vibe that people have is, just buy these assets, they go up. And what we're seeing right now, I think in terms of technicals as well, we're seeing lots of different assets approach breakout levels. So I think that, this next week could be a very, very exciting week for the alts. But I think we should definitely start with Bitcoin, like you said, because although it's not doing too much, there is still plenty to talk about, just in terms of its not only its relationship with traditional equities, but its relationship with the rest of the crypto market as well. So you want to start with the Bitcoin charts here?
Yeah, let's get into it. And I think since Bitcoin has been so boring, that's namely one of the reasons why altcoins have attracted more capital. Because traders want opportunities to make money during this consolidation when Bitcoin is not in a period of particular high volatility. So we're seeing other speculations. Earlier in the week we saw the metaverse plays really see a lot of action, like Decentraland, Sands, Cube, Axie Infinity. Ever since, we're kind of seeing a little bit of a retrace in those, but let me focus on Bitcoin here. So what I think we're in right now with Bitcoin is a reaccumulation, because when we look at the difference between distribution and reaccumulation, there are characteristics that can be very confusing. But the reason why I think we're at a instance of accumulation here and not an instance of distribution is one, because of whale wallets continue to buy. We see those long-term holders still setting support. But when you see these wicks, right, when you see down tests of support and buyers willing to absorb that supply quite frequently, that shows that I think we're in the middle of a bullish consolidation. And when we look at similar patterns, it can occur in a variety of ways, the reaccumulation I'm talking about. But if we look at the top three most common schematics, this is the Wyckoff reaccumulation phase. And I think it's something that we're going through with Bitcoin right now. I think we just went through it in IWM, and we finally actually broken out to the upside after months of testing supply at these lower levels, only for it to be bought up. And sometimes we test down, we test support a variety of times. On IWM, we really see that we did that a long period of time. We did it over 5 times. But each instance, that supply was absorbed. Whoever the larger entities are in the market, they did not want to let IWM get below that 210 level. And I think the equivalent for Bitcoin right now is this level at 56 to 58K. I don't think that we're going to go below there. We might test it once or maybe even twice, from a more bearish perspective. But I think that we're probably going to end up looking something like this or something like this, in which we consolidate, not necessarily touch the bottom support, but eventually break to the upside after some larger players have had an opportunity to accumulate in this channel. So until the breakout above the high, which would be, in this case, the channel at about 64K, there's not a whole lot to do except look in the altcoin market. If you're long spot BTC, I think this is a really good place to be, because I think we are going to inevitably push higher in the coming weeks. But until then, there's not much to do other than just look in the altcoin market.
Yeah, absolutely, CJ. And what's interesting to note as well, I think, is that we saw a similar period of accumulation, I think, in a lot of these altcoins that are breaking out right now. We saw even in an asset like Solana, that showed such tremendous speculation from the months of August, into the month of August. Then September got hit hard with that liquidation event, basically moved sideways from September until the start of November. And now we're breaking out again. I could, very much see that happening in Bitcoin. And I think one thing that, we often see is when Bitcoin gets in this period of kind of consolidation and accumulation while the alts are ripping, one thing that a lot of traders do is take profit on those altcoin positions that are ripping and use that profit to accumulate Bitcoin. I've done it in previous market cycles. I think it's something that, is great in terms of risk management, because whenever you have an asset, just in terms of, looking at it from divergence from a moving average perspective, when these alts rip like that, it makes sense to take profit, and looking to an asset like Bitcoin that looks like it's in a phase of, accumulation seems like a good use of your capital there. But I wanted to quickly mention one chart that I was talking about earlier in the week, and that is crypto total market cap excluding Bitcoin, because we did get a little bit of a breakout in this formation here. We had this nice cup and handle forming here with the clear breakout level of 1.49 trillion marked by these wicks here. Once we got above that level, we really saw the alts start to run. And now, the total crypto market cap got as high as 1.6 trillion, excluding Bitcoin. This is the crypto market cap excluding Bitcoin. And as you can see, once we broke out of that cup and handle formation a little bit, that allowed lots of these alts to make those runs, not just the NFTs, but now we're seeing Solana continue to make new all-time highs, DOT continue to make new all-time highs. Those are some big contributors to this metric. And as you can see, it is breaking out right now of this technical formation, which tells me that right now, the crypto total market cap excluding Bitcoin has the potential to grow perhaps to 2 trillion by the end of this market cycle. So, when you look at this chart, it tells you that the altcoins have, some high potential towards the end of this market cycle. And I'm going to tie that into one other chart that we always reference, when we're talking about Bitcoin and the alts, and that's Bitcoin dominance. Where we talk about a breakout level of that cup and handle for the crypto total market cap excluding Bitcoin being 1.5 trillion. We have a similarly critical level here at 44%. We finally broke down below that level after kind of testing it as support a few times here last week. And now we're continuing to kind of cascade. Really, there isn't too much support for Bitcoin dominance until we go all the way down here at about the 40% level. This is where we retested in September when we saw assets like Solana making, new all-time highs even amidst Bitcoin relative weakness. That's something I anticipate we can see here again. Look at the similarities between what we're seeing here in Bitcoin dominance and kind of what we saw here. We saw this cascading falling in Bitcoin dominance here, followed by a brief period of consolidation at a critical level of support, which we saw here as well. And now we're continuing this fall down. I think we definitely could come down and retest the 40% level. And we don't have to look back very far to see what that meant for the crypto market. Like I said, we saw assets like Sol, like HBAR, like DOT rip up during this point in time. And I expect that same exact thing to happen here as Bitcoin dominance is looking set to retest lower levels of about 40%. But interesting stuff nonetheless, and all signs are pointing to now being a good time to be in the alts, CJ.
So I want to pose a question to you, Monty, because I think it's one that many are wondering out there. With Solana making all-time highs going up to 246, I mean, do you think it's time to take a little bit of profit off the table, wait before reevaluating, or would you rather just hold at this point? And if we get a dip to 200, you just add on that dip to 200. What's your approach there?
Yeah, that's a great question. And with Solana, I think right now, and I think when you're looking at Solana, you can't just look at the Solana chart. You got to look at all the things that we just talked about, right? The crypto total market cap excluding Bitcoin, Bitcoin dominance. That can give you some insight into exactly how far overextended these things can go. We've seen CJ, I think you did a great job in our webinar yesterday talking about how all-time highs don't necessarily mean overbought. If you look at Bitcoin's history, if you bought it at that all-time high breakout, like you said, you'd be 4 for 4 in the months following that breakout. I think Solana here, you don't necessarily want to be selling just because it's at an all-time high. I think that when we look at what we're seeing from Bitcoin dominance, I think if we look at all of the other metrics as well, like you pointed out, Bitcoin looking set to consolidate, I think that bodes well for the alts. And I think Solana is uniquely positioned amongst the alts to be the primary benefactor of both retail and institutional speculation. Now, when we talk about Solana, we got to talk about ETH as well. ETH was definitely played a large role in this first uptick in Solana's price action here, and it's no coincidence that Solana is continuing to run as ETH is at all time high levels here. So I think that looking at Solana in conjunction with ETH here can kind of give us some good insight. So I'm not going to be bearish on Solana until I'm bearish on ETH. So with ETH, we have some clear levels of support here. I could very well see ETH coming back down, retesting 4250, and in the meantime, Solana ripping up during that occasion. So if that does happen, I want to be riding this Solana position. I don't necessarily want to be out of it, but like we talked about yesterday, CJ, taking profit, you're never wrong for taking profit, especially when you have these sort of moves from Solana, working its way up to a psychologically critical level of $250. I think that when you see this sort of overextension from the moving average, then yeah, sure, taking some profit is a reasonable and probably smart move here. But I think that in the long term, when we're looking at what we're seeing from ETH, when we're looking at what we're seeing from Bitcoin dominance, all of those things tell me that Solana still has some tremendous upside potential at the end of this market cycle. So I don't want to, handcuff myself here and get out of the position and then see it move against me. But, to your point, CJ, I think that after these 2 days of price action, taking some profit is totally reasonable. And, I think there are plenty of other assets that aren't so far extended from their moving averages and are looking primed for a similar breakout that you could reallocate some of that capital to. But that being said, I will be looking to buy Solana on any retests of support. Like you said, if it comes back down to 220, I would definitely be looking at that. But in the meantime, I think now is a time to let these winners run because based on what we're seeing from the overall market, it tells me that alts are going to have a very strong close to the year here.
Yeah, I'm definitely still bullish and in agreement with you when it comes to month end, 2 months, 3 months out. I think that's going to be, I think this alt season is really just getting started, even if we do hit some bumps in the road in the short term. But with that being said, how about Doge of the day? Anything that you are particularly looking at? I see Austin says Sheeb taking a hit. Yeah, we had that 2.9 billion, I believe it was, of the 5 billion worth of Sheeb, that famous trade from 8K to 5.4 billion. So it seems like that's seeing a little bit of profit taking. Kind of reminds me of when Vitalik dumped his sheep and then donated like $5 billion to charity. So kind of a little bit of you know a repeat there, but it does look like it's been kenneled in the short term.
Yes, the sheep is in the kennel for the short term. But there are plenty of other doges, I think, to take a look at here as we enter this weekend. And one, CJ, that I really like here right now is Luna. And, we were just looking at the soul chart, right? And we talked about it breaking out into new all-time highs, what that had meant for the subsequent price action. And I think we're looking at a very similar scenario here with Luna. This level of $50 is the breakout level for Luna. I'm looking to buy this breakout because I think that we could see a continuation of some positive price action, especially when you can consider all the things we just talked about, like Bitcoin dominance, crypto total market cap, even Bitcoin's performance relative to traditional equities as well. I think now is the time to be risk on in this market and looking for assets like Luna that are approaching an all-time high breakout are assets that you want to be looking at right now. And beyond that, fundamentally speaking, Luna is a very solid project. It is comparable to Sol in the sense that it does have some institutional interest coming into it as well. But also what's worth noting is in a couple of weeks, they're doing a controlled burn and will be burning thousands of Luna tokens in order to kind of control the supply a little bit. Historically, for various assets, that has been a positive catalyst for price. Obviously, diminishing the supply leads to an increase in price, even if demand remains unchanged. So I think that Luna has a lot of things going for it right now, not just the technicals, fundamentals as well. And for those reasons, I'm going to be watching to buy a breakout if we get above this $50 level here. So that is my Doge of the day today, CJ, Luna.
All right, I want to answer this question because I think it's really important, because I think a lot of retail people are still holding Cardano. E-Man says, what's up with ADA not moving? Tell us why. I don't know exactly why, other than the fact that ADA just has a lot of competitors. We have Polkadot, Solana, AVAX, so many quality layer one projects. And with ADA just not hitting its deadlines, there's just nothing that exciting about ADA at this particular point. We got this run up, back in August and early in the fall because we had such an anticipation leading up to those smart contracts launching. But once that died down and some initial, failures were experienced, it really the hype really fell out of the market. And I think there's still a lot of retail traders still holding this bag from the top of Cardano. And we did talk about this in the webinar yesterday as well, but I don't really, I'm not interested in assets right now that are below the 20 smooth moving average, or specifically when the 20 smooth moving average is acting as resistance and is descending after a recent peak. Until ADA can actually show me some strength, get above this level and consolidate, then it will become interesting to me again. But due to its competition and all the other interesting projects, like Monty mentioned, that are creating new all-time highs, I just think there's a greater opportunity cost if you're in ADA and not being in those projects. So I'm not going to be talking about ADA or looking at it until it gets above that moving average, because until it does, I think it's going to remain irrelevant to the overall layer one space. Now let's get to the Doge of the day, or some assets that we should discuss. I guess I'll start by highlighting Serum because, for instance, this is one in which the 20 smooth moving average was acting as resistance. Now price has actually been able to have a nice bullish engulfing candle yesterday. And, we're still waiting to see if Serum can truly get that role reversal and flip that moving average from previous resistance now to new supports. But, we had some really interesting news shared in the community this morning by Mr. Morgan, I believe. Yes.
Yep, Jeff Morgan.
Jeff Morgan, thank you very much. This is a great read. I enjoyed it very much. But it has to do with Solana and its overall impact, or how Serum can impact and benefit Solana's DeFi ecosystem, and how it is essentially a jack of all trades for Solana and lending and essentially being a decentralized exchange, similar to, like, you could call it the Uniswap of Solana, for instance. So when you compare market caps and you think about the potential of where Serum can go, it only has a market cap of about $1 billion right now, maybe $1.1 billion. And Uniswap has a market cap of 16 billion. So it's not unrealistic in my mind, with the developments that are going to come in the Solana ecosystem, for Serum to 10x to a $10 billion market cap. We'll see if that happens. We'll see if that strength comes in and how the capital flows within the market. But I think it's a really important project to the Solana ecosystem. And with Solana ripping to new all-time highs almost on a daily basis now, I have to imagine that people are going to start looking within the Solana ecosystem for those diamonds in the rough in those projects. And undoubtedly, I think Serum is one of them. Might be a little early on it, but still, I think it's very influential. I guess I'm kind of turning this into a webinar. I'd want to go over Chia too, but please, you have something to say
No,
first?
no, no. I was just gonna say, yeah, no, I would love to hear what you have to say about Chia, but I did want to just say, you said with SRM, it could potentially be one of those diamonds in the rough in the Solana ecosystem. I totally agree with you. I think technically speaking, what we're seeing right now, it's looking very strong, but also fundamentally, like you said, I think towards the end of this market cycle, we're going to see people more exploring downstream in the Solana ecosystem. And in order to do that, you need to utilize the DEX in the Solana ecosystem, and that is SRM. So I think if people want to explore more downstream, which I do think they will towards the end of this market cycle, when we're very risk on and people are looking for those diamonds in the rough, like you said, I think those DEX plays are going to be hugely important. So I like that, we're getting in on SRM now, while it's kind of still not yet broken out, looking strong technically, and Solana is making new all-time highs. I think that's a really good trade. So thank you for sharing that. But Chia making a nice move there.
Yeah, right after I sold it, of course. Um, but there is something interesting that I want to be clear about with Chia. And, I should have just held on in retrospect, because I have this line drawn on the chart. And this is December 31st. And so to understand about the context of Chia, we first started talking about it at around 170, had a nice run up immediately, but then price was just sold into ever since then. And, we stopped talking about it pretty much because we didn't want, there was no reason to get in at that point because we were just getting flooded with supply. And that was namely on the back of the Chinese trading ban. If you look at Chia and the nodes and where a lot of the action was happening in terms of like validating the network and farming the transactions, it was mainly in China. And so when that China ban was instituted, there was a lot of sell pressure that came into the market. And I think we're still seeing a lot of that sell pressure. Of course, not recently within the last day, but that's been consistent with this downtrend. But December 31st is the last day which a lot of that sell pressure will probably be alleviated, and will not be in the market. And so you have this asset that, the fundamentals are not particularly terrible. You have a lot of talents, you have a lot of funding and Andreessen Horowitz behind Chia. So if we get news of an IPO or some potential enterprise solutions into December or potentially January, this thing could run a little bit because it's just been sold into so hard. Now Chia has to kind of pivot from the Chinese market into the North American market, to really get more capital to go up. But just an interesting increase last night. We have really only 3 substantial spikes in volume throughout the eternity of Chia's lifetime. And this is the 3rd largest spike in volume that we've had since its launch. So something to add to your watch list and consider. It's something that I'm going to be watching a little bit more closely after we've been kind of ignoring it because it's been below this 20 smooth moving average the past couple months. So that's what I have to say about Chia. I guess I could briefly cover Helium because there was another question on that. Still bullish on Helium. Nice supply absorption yesterday with that wick and buyers coming in on it, running into a little bit of resistance closer to the 31 level. So I haven't bought any of this yet. I know it's been my Doge of the day past few days and over the past week. I'm kind of waiting a little bit more patiently for a potential retrace to this moving average after some profit taking, but we'll see what happens in Helium as well. But I'll pass back to you, Monty.
Good stuff, CJ. Yeah, lots of assets, making new all-time highs here. Lots of opportunity in this market right now. So, glad that you took the time to go over some extra ones there. I'm sure the folks appreciated that.
One last thing. Chris Vincentini. I sold Chia for sand and made the exact same trade as you. And then you typed it in the chat like a couple moments later. It was kind of funny how that happened. But, I'm out of sand at this point now. I think that I'm no longer the Sandman. I think the metaverse plays are a little bit stretched in the short term, but I still think the long-term future is really bright. But with that being said, yeah, got some capital now that I'm looking to go into. Roger asks, where do you trade XCH? Uphold. It's a great brokerage if you want to get assets that normal brokerages won't list, like XRP and some other stuff like that. So you can check that out. But
yeah, definitely check that out. And I think Jason makes a great point in the chat here as well. It's been great to see how many of these assets have kind of decoupled from each other. Even while Bitcoin's relatively boring, we're seeing plenty of other assets, make new all-time highs. It really makes this market exciting. And this is the, part of the market cycle that we all really love. So, CJ and I will be hanging out in the crypto room all weekend. We're in there pretty much 24/7. We publish actionable trade insights. I've actually got one coming here in just a little bit. Yes, going to be sending it out right after this show here. Also, we have a pro charting service, a 24/7 chat with a community of traders from all around the world that share their insights as well. Some really awesome traders in there. We also have an extensive education curriculum with over 17 hours worth of content. It's all digestible, about 20-minute videos, and it ranges from everything from the fundamentals of Bitcoin to technical analysis to understanding NFTs. We've got a little bit of everything. So head over there and check that out. If you're not yet a member, you can try it at markrebellion.com/try crypto, and you can get your first week for just $7. Also, if you want to start trading your crypto and earning interest on your crypto, head over to investvoyager.com where you can trade 60 plus assets commission free. You can earn up to 12% interest on assets like DOT that is currently ripping to new all-time highs, and 10% on assets like USDC stablecoins, so you can take some profit at the end of this market cycle and still earn a little bit of interest. So if you head over there, use code Rebel25 when you sign up for $25 free in Bitcoin. But that is all we got for today. Should be a very exciting weekend here. We'll be back tomorrow with another episode of the Daily Crypto Byte. Have a great rest of your day, folks. We will see you again tomorrow. Take care.